Hello, I'm Pylon John, and welcome back to the grand city of Montmaquis, which I've been calling a Vanilla Plus build, even though I may have too many mods now to call it that. Anyway, as I was recording the closing cinematics for the last episode, I realized that something was off with one of those mods, the map texture replacer. It seems I had lost my settings and everything reverted to the default. So you'll see me playing around with it here, trying to get the right combination with elements from different base packs. Yeah, never mind the tornado. It's mostly harmless. Another thing I want to fix from the last episode is this railroad running along the side of the mountain out of town. There are just too many lumpies and bumpies, and I want to try to make this slope nice and even wherever possible. It's still much too steep overall, but we'll just have to cope with what the game gave us. Also in the last episode, we had this railway go over the highway and then stay elevated as it passes through this industrial area, which doesn't make much sense. We'll have to fix that today. I'll start by trimming this back. And as I started building this, I realized that some new functionality has been added to the options on the left here by the Anarchy mod. Although when I come back to look for them later, I'll realize that they were removed because of a bug. But it incorporates a lot of the functionality of extended road upgrades, as well as some really cool new features like the ability to be more precise with the elevation steps using this handy slider. Although I make the mistake of leaving the force to ground option activated, thinking it's the default, and it'll give me a headache for the next few minutes until I figure it out. We're gonna have to place the tracks a little further away from the road than where they were, which is gonna force us to move or remove a parking lot and some of these factories. Next, I'm gonna temporarily replace some of this regular track with station track so that I can place a passenger stop here and just make sure that all of the track is connected up properly. And here we can see a train rolling in, so yeah, it looks like we're all good. In this episode, I want to make sure that our newly built industrial areas have enough service coverage. It's easy to forget about them. And we'll start here in our oil fields where garbage is still piling up and it's starting to hurt efficiency. So I'll open up the garbage management menu and see what we've got. I don't really want to build another landfill or recycling center. We do have the incineration plant that we can unlock. And the industrial waste processing site, which seems appropriate, though it might be overkill. I decide to go with the incineration plant, which here is called the incinerator plant. It's just 2 development points. We'll save these 8 for later. And there's really only one spot that seems appropriate and has enough room. And it's right here next to the oil refinery. Although I don't want access to be directly on the main road. So I'll add this little alley here. And I try to remember to turn off Anarchy when I don't need it. I find that placing things with Anarchy ends up requiring other things to also be placed with Anarchy. We're right at the base of the mountain here, so we'll have to come through and smooth things out a little. And I'll use Move It to lower the incineration plant to a more reasonable level. Which will require me to rebuild this alley. And I want to make sure that the new incineration plant serves only the 5 districts south of the river, and that its vehicles don't cross the river and go collect garbage in town. I think I named the new districts off camera and wasn't feeling especially creative, but sometimes it's better to just keep things simple. The thing is, even our shiny new incineration plant doesn't seem to be doing anything to solve our garbage problem over here. It's now causing a 17% hit to our oil production. There's nothing wrong with our garbage processing capacity. Could it really just be a bug with that particular industrial building? Yeah, it's only getting worse. It's probably best to just delete it and replace it. Although I can't seem to remember how to get rid of this industry surface. Better Bulldozer's surface tool doesn't work. Neither does the specialized industry area tool. Let's just try the regular Bulldozer. Oh yeah, that's what does it. Now I can simply replace the oil industry building and trace out the industry area again. Now, with our waste management covered, what's next? Fire and rescue seems important, especially considering our experience in that other city. Not to mention the fact that we have a pretty big oil industry. We'll need a fire station to cover this area, and this area, of course, but also up here, and our soon-to-be reactivated university. Let's start up here in the Guéris Industrial District. We already have a city services hub up here. It would make sense to put it next to the park maintenance building, even though it doesn't quite fit, but thankfully, we have Anarchy. And move it. And better Bulldozer. Snug as a bug in a rug. Which gives its neighbor enough room to stick around. And that should take care of the north side of the river. Let's head south. Starting by the oil fields. Once again, there's kind of an obvious spot to place this, and it's this little plot of land right next to the incineration plant. And as soon as we have that taken care of, another problem appears. Backed up sewer. And it looks pretty bad. In fact, it looks like the sewers are backed up in 3 different corners of the map. Until now, we've been operating with a couple of sewage outlets under this bridge. But clearly that's not enough anymore. And yeah, if we zoom in, we'll see a new icon. Sewage facility overload. There are a couple of upgrades available, but neither of them increases capacity. It seems like they just add water purification, which isn't what we need right now. Although this water treatment plant will increase capacity, purify the water, and recycle it back into the system. Again, there's kind of an obvious spot for it, right here in our city services hub. And that is a very attractive building. It looks like really swanky offices. Just for good measure, I'll find a spot for a couple more sewage outlets on the south side of the river, on more city-owned land near these power lines. Then I'll connect them up to the rest of the system. And since a road would seem too wide here, I'll just snake a pedestrian path down to them. Again, trying to keep the grading reasonable. And with all of our new infrastructure in place, we need to lower the percentage of our budget going to water and sewage, which still leaves us with plenty of capacity. With that out of the way, what other services do we need? Well, not more cops, that's for sure. We have 2 criminals in jail and an average crime probability of 1%, with 7 crimes per month. What do they mean by crime anyway? Are we talking graffiti or are we talking about unaliving people? Because cops are really good at that. If you want people who brave dangerous conditions to provide a valuable service to the community, let's talk about mail carriers. I thought our coverage in the Old Town was pretty good, but with the population growth, we do need more mailboxes. I'll try to find the optimal placement to turn as many roads green as I can with each mailbox. With the coverage problem taken care of, now we need to deal with capacity. And not our capacity to store mail, but our capacity to process it. First of all 20 of our post vans are in use right now. So we'll add a garage to our post office. There's lots of space in the back. But we will need to add another facility, and I want to take a look at this post sorting facility, but I haven't unlocked it yet, so I'll just use the Find It mod to check it out and see if there's anywhere we can reasonably put it. Maybe here? Nah, it's too big. I'll just place another regular post office for now. And delete the building I plopped it on top of. And mail is done. Next up, another form of communication. Our server farm in Guéris seems to provide adequate coverage to most of the North Shore, with the old radio mast helping to extend that coverage into the Notre Dame district. Our future university district is also covered, although we'll probably want to beef that up when we get to it. Before going any further, I'll just add both upgrades to the radio mast, which admittedly doesn't do a whole lot. I think we'll need to add something down here. Not another radio mast though. And a server farm doesn't seem like a good fit here. Maybe a telecom tower? Again, I'm gonna cheat a little since we haven't unlocked it yet and use Find It just to check it out. And yeah, I think that's what we need. Alright, I'll go ahead and unlock it properly. We've got plenty of development points to spend. Placing it closer to town improves the network quality there, but placing it in the foothills increases its coverage area. In the end, I decided that the perfect spot for it would be in this corner, near the highway interchange. The next service I want to look at is parks. Now, it might seem strange to place parks in an industrial district, but I think workers deserve a nice spot to hang out at lunch or blow off some steam after a long day of wage slavery, selling their labor for the profit of the capitalist class on threat of homelessness and starvation. Anyway, here we hit milestone 15. Montmaquis is now a metropolis. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, parks. And that's all the parks I feel like placing here. There's a large playground in Michelet's residential neighborhood, a couple of small plazas, and a basketball court up here. Next up, we have transportation, and I simply want to add a bus line running from the bus station downtown to our newest industrial districts. And done. That was pretty straightforward. since I didn't have to deal with those annoying super long bus bays on the roads that I created with the Road Builder mod. And before naming our new line, we'll have to rename line 1 since we now have 2 that are going out to the industrial districts. This one goes specifically to Les Côtes, while the new line, line 4, ends up at the cargo train terminal. And I'll lower the ticket price to match the others, although it seems like we've run out of buses. And I've already built a whack of extra garages. Maybe I can use Anarchy to go a little further than I should and find some space down here to put it? I think I'll need to build a second bus depot eventually, but I'll just forget about it for now. And I'm going to change the name of this bus line since I can imagine passengers getting confused between the cargo train terminal and the passenger train station. And yeah, I did get this name from the cookware brand. I don't know, I thought it was a cute name for an industrial area. One trick I picked up from a couple of other YouTubers is to place a few hay bales around these fields. Giving them a third dimension makes them look a little more realistic. Finally, I'm gonna add a small medical clinic somewhere in this industrial area. Maybe over here. There is demand for it in these districts. People do get sick and injured at work, even if their bosses might not necessarily care. Now for some detailing. I know that some YouTubers would save the detailing for the end of the episode, and we're not quite at the end of the episode yet, but I guess my method is a little more chaotic. As in, when I think to do something, I do it. Otherwise I might forget. Which is pretty different from the mostly ordered approach that I take to most things in real life. And again, I'm trying not to go too crazy with the detailing here in Montmaquis. I've started playing around with all the new decals and stuff elsewhere, but here I'll stick mostly to the vanilla surfaces, as well as trees and props. Anyway, it's winter now, and unemployment continues to be a problem here, with our unemployment rate at 22%, which is still way too high. I know I'll need to build more industrial districts, and probably bigger and more dense ones, but I don't really feel like doing that right now. Maybe I can grab another factory from the signature buildings? Nah, they're just way too big for our existing industrial districts. So I can't do much about unemployment right now, but one thing I can do to make residents happier and convince them to give me another term in office is lower their taxes. But not you, you gotta pay your fair share. There, that seems reasonable. I'm also gonna take a look at my industries and adjust my tax rates for each one according to production levels. Which simply means higher taxes for industries that are overproducing and lower taxes or even negative taxes or subsidies for those that aren't producing enough. For example, I was surprised to see a deficit in timber, considering our forestry industry, so I'll just slide this down to 6%. Now, I'm not sure why I upgraded this rail yard with extra rails. We don't need them, and they look ugly, and I don't want to have to hook them up. So I'll just get rid of them. So why is Pauline Erickson walking out of town along the side of the highway? It appears she's wealthy, so she can afford a bus or train ticket. In fact, I think I made the buses out of town free to help deal with the homelessness bug. And there are others too. Here's one, Samson Murphy. He's homeless and unemployed, but also wealthy. And I already changed the name of the bus line heading to this district, but to avoid confusion, I'll just change the name of the district itself. As a nod to the historic rail infrastructure here, we'll just call it Vieille Gare, or Old Station. Next, I'm going to create a new district north of Chemin de la Résistance. We already have our college and city hall up here, and I'm going to use those for inspiration, going for a garden city vibe with low-density residential. So if our downtown Saint-Hugues district has a population of about 45,000, and the old town of Notre-Dame-des-Martyrs is about half that at 25,000, then I'm planning for our new district to have about half of that. Maybe 10,000, no more than 15. I could use some help coming up with a name for it though. With that projection in mind, I can start placing the necessary infrastructure in advance, like these elementary schools. These crematoriums were already located in the district, and I'm going to keep them since I still can't find room for even a custom cemetery, but I'll make them look nice. And I'll add a high school, one of the original old-fashioned ones since it better fits the vibe I'm going for here. So it's spring now, and we have our 3 elementary schools, our high school, our college, 2 crematoriums, with a small park next to this one, and a dog park over here, next to our city hall. There's also a firehouse squeezed in here, and a soccer field that I felt obliged to plop in during the big sports games in Paris. Now I'll start zoning here, trying to get a smooth transition from medium to low density. I almost forgot to give the soccer field a parking lot. I'll create a custom one here. This should be big enough. Now for some low density housing. I figure this part of town houses the managers helping to exploit their fellow workers in the industrial districts. Let's use Find It to give one of them the Painter Mansion signature building. It fits in perfectly here, and its stone walls match those of the college. I decided to try the waterfront zoning for the first time, but I don't think it really works here. Let's just stick with European low-density housing. Okay, maybe a few waterfront houses mixed in here and there. And I'll even plop in a few North American houses for some much-needed variety. So here's what our new district looks like now, and we still have plenty of low-density residential demand. And lots of demand for jobs, with our unemployment rate now up to 27.5%. But I think we'll leave that for a future episode. I'll just wrap it up here for today. As always, I really appreciate you watching. And if you appreciated watching, feel free to do the clicky or the typey and give this video a boost. And don't forget to check out the closing cinematics. I'm Pylon John. Until next time, Free Palestine.